introducing all of us into a tradition that had been around and really waiting for us forever. And thank God we found that place and we found that tradition. I learned in the yeshiva for 2 years, and one of the things I learned is not to be envious. But I have to admit, I'm actually quite envious of myself this evening because I have the easiest job in the world. Right? Often people making introductions say that they're going to introduce someone who needs no introduction. I've done that many times in my life. It was never true. Until tonight. I'm literally going to be introducing people who need no introduction, and yet we all understand fundamentally that because of who they are and what they've meant for us, that they deserve that introduction. The pre-introduction, of course, is, for anyone not familiar with it, this is a cell phone. It's an example of a cell phone. The main activity to do with a cell phone is to either turn it off or to turn it on vibrate or silent or something so that it doesn't interrupt our distinguished speakers. We have a relatively short but rich, packed, and I think enjoyable program at this really epic event of the 40th anniversary. So I want to begin by calling to give us words of bracha, a co-founder, a Rosh Yeshiva, Dean of the David Chappelle College of Jewish Studies, Darchei Noam, and Midrash Rachel Bachaya. B'vakasha, Rav Karlinsky.
It would be no understatement to say I'm overwhelmed. I empathize with the office staff that's overwhelmed with the tremendous turnout. It's amazing that we're spanning 40 years of alumni, Talmidim, staff members. I just want to acknowledge the presence of Rav Nosson Kamenetsky, who was the first Rosh Yeshiva of Chappelle's, and then when Darchei Noam merged with Chappelle's, was the Rosh Yeshiva for 2 years. We're in an evening where Rabbi Hirschfeld is turning over the mantle to Rabbi Spoonmaker, and Rav Nosson was the Rosh Yeshiva back in 1978, 79, 80, 81. And of course, I also want to acknowledge the Chappelle family, who doesn't like to be acknowledged or recognized, but they are here, and thank them for everything that the family has done over the decades. I see that it wasn't necessary for me to even finish, and therefore they appreciate the applause and they appreciate that I'm not finishing what I was going to say. The primary honoree, Rabbi Yitzchak Hirschfeld, my colleague for 40 years of the yeshiva, Chavrusa for 40 years in the days of the Mir Yeshiva. If you saw the journal, you see what alumni have to say about him, and of course many other alumni what they feel without saying. And I'm going to try to pinpoint in 3 minutes or 4 minutes before we see a video which will encapsulate Rabbi Hirschfeld's life and career. What is the secret that Rabbi Hirschfeld brought to the yeshiva that made the yeshiva so successful and his relationship with Talmidim and Talmidos so successful? So we've launched this week, last Shabbos, the 5 Parshiot on the Mishkan, on the building of the Mishkan. And the Slonim Rebbe in the Nesivo Shalom asks a very simple question. The Torah teaches us laws that are the most critical laws of Judaism, in a sentence, in a phrase, in a word. And here the Torah spends 5 Parshiot. Nowadays they would say an amazing amount of bandwidth on something that's completely irrelevant to most of Jewish history. The Mishkan, even if you're going to have it representative of the Beit HaMikdash, so we're talking about 1,000 years maximum for 3,000 years of Jewish history. Why is the Torah spending so much time? So, says the Nesivo Shalom, that The goal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu creating this world and man's responsibility is to create an environment in which God can dwell. Ve'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'socha. And how does that happen? So there is a phrase that repeats itself over and over and over again. It starts in Parshas Truma, and it runs through Parshas Vayakel, and the phrase is Nediv Lev, Chacham Asher Nisa'o Libo, a generous, giving heart, an elevated heart. Says the Nesiva Shalom, that's what's necessary to build a Mishkan, to unite Klal Yisrael, the heart that is Nediv, the heart that is open and giving. And Rabbi Herschel is a person who is selfless in giving to his Talmidim, in giving to spreading Torah, in giving to help make Chappelle's Dar Chinom and Midreshet Rachel an environment in which we can have Talmidim who can now go out and build homes that really invite the divine presence to be helpful. But it's built on Nediv Lev. And it's hard to summarize 40 years in one sentence, and there are many more aspects, but I'm only given 5 minutes, and therefore I think that everybody who has had interaction realizes that that's Rabbi Herschel's secret. That's been the secret of the success, one of the secrets of the success of all of our Talmidim and Talmidos and the institution. Nedivus Lev, the openness of the heart, selfless, always looking to share and to give. That's the foundation of the Beis HaMikdash. That's the foundation, now when we have no Beis HaMikdash, of the Jewish home and of the yeshiva and seminary. And with that, we're going to watch a video. All right, in a minute, we're going to be giving Rabbi Hirschfeld a special gift and introducing him to share his words with us. I just wanted to add one more dimension since I have another 3 minutes. This week's Parsha talks about the menorah. And the lashon of the commandment is to build a menorah, and that it's going to be eternal. And of course, we know that all of the kelim in the Beis HaMikdash were temporary. And what is so unique about the menorah that it's going to be eternal? So there's an important midrash. There's an important midrash where God says, I'm commanding you to light candles, menorah, lamps for illumination. Says the Medrash, Lo sha'ani tzarich laneros. I don't need the lamps. I illuminate everything. Ela shetairu li, but I still want you to illuminate for me. Kishem she'arti lachem, just as I illuminated for you. This is a very strange conversation, and the Midrash gives an example of a blind person and a seeing person, where the seeing person tells the blind person, I will lead you to the house because you can't see. And when they get to the house, the seeing person then asks the blind person, despite the fact that it's in the middle of the day, please light a candle for me. Today we would say, turn on the electricity for me. And the Midrash says, the blind person says, why do I need to turn on a light for you? You can see, and I can't see. And the lashon of the Medrash is that I don't want you to be beholden to me. That, yes, I did you a favor, but you need to express gratitude, and therefore you're going to light it for me, even though I don't need it. Says the Midrash, what's the Nimshal? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Klal Yisrael, of course I illuminate for you. Of course I don't need the illumination. But I want you to illuminate as a recognition for what I do for you. Hakarat HaTov. Rabbi Herschel doesn't need any acknowledgement. One of his unique qualities is his humility. A Lev Tov is always a giving heart, never looking for himself. And therefore he doesn't need any acknowledgement, he doesn't need any accolades. But we need it. We need to express our Hakarat HaTov for his devotion, for his chinuch, for his eitzah, And that's what this gift is going to be. And everybody sitting in this room has to have tremendous hakarat hatov and express it, where if the Midrash says that you express hakarat hatov even when the recipient doesn't need it. So I'm sure at the end you're going to hear about how you can express hakarat hatov where the recipient does need it. But right now we're going to give Rabbi Herschel the gift. And again, we understand, Rabbi Herschel, you don't really need it, that it's our responsibility. This is an original painting by an alumnus, Mario Braun, and it hopefully reflects something which is really meaningful like that.
It really is overwhelming to see the hundreds of people here. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here to recognize what the yeshiva has done over the last 40 years. And it's been indeed my privilege to have been here and helped build this wonderful yeshiva, this wonderful institution, which has helped so many people build their Jewish lives, their Jewish homes, and give nachas to Yerushalayim. Thank you for showing your appreciation and your warmth to me, to the other honorees, the Catholics, the Lubinskis, the Levis, and to the yeshiva that we all owe so much to. Today we're celebrating, on the one hand, we're looking to the past to see what we've accomplished, to thank the Rebbeinu Shalom for having given us the opportunity to build a Mokum Torah, to build what we have built. But on the other hand, we have to use the past as a guide to the future, to make sure that we understand what it is that we have done, and that gives us an achrayus to continue into the future and make sure that this wonderful ideal of Darchei Noam, the wonderful ideal of Chappell College and Midrashet Rachel V'Chaya will continue into the years for another 40 years to come, Bezrat Hashem. Yes, I've retired from the position of Rosh Yeshiva. Let me dispel some confusion that may have arisen out of that. I haven't left. Baruch Hashem. My schedule is just as busy as it was beforehand, and I still have to make the 7:45 bus every morning in Kiryat Sefer to get to the yeshiva on time, and make the 5:45 bus back and get home in some decent hour. But the truth is I didn't realize how much of what I said on the video was going to be repeated in the speech, but the truth is that it was a couple of years ago already that we recognized, that I personally recognized the need to bring in new, younger blood into the yeshiva to face challenges of the future. New times require new initiatives, new ideas, and Baruch Hu has allowed me to step down from the administration and to concentrate more on teaching. I teach more than I used to teach, and that gives me the greatest sense of accomplishment. As you know, many of you, most of you were at one point or another in my shir, and you would know that how much I enjoy it, and I hope that you've enjoyed it as well. Baruch Hashem, we found the right person to step into that role of Rosh Yeshiva. Rav David Schoolmaker is right here, and is already proving to be a providential move in helping the yeshiva move forward into the challenges of the next years. 40 years, it's a long time. Chazal tell us that a person doesn't really understand what his Rebbe taught him until 40 years have passed. It takes 40 years to be able to see things in perspective, to be able to separate the meaningful from the transient and from the ephemeral. It takes 40 years to be able to see what we have done. And looking at all of you, I see 40 years flash before my eyes as we remember from times of many years ago until the most recent years. And this helps us understand what's going on. We're at the beginning of Adar. Mishenichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha. What's the underlying root of the Simcha of Adar, of Purim? Our Svarim tell us that what brings true Simcha to our lives, true enjoyment, true laughter, is v'nahafochu. When we see that things aren't what they really seem to be, when we see that behind the olam, the ne'elam, what's hidden, there are deeper truths, deeper understandings. When we see that, when we look at the newspapers and we see how pale and superficial what passes for news is when we compare it to the everlasting words of Chazal and the Nevi'im who describe our Tkufa. When we think of the Divrei Torah, we see that the depth of Divrei Torah is so incomparably greater than what passes for wisdom in the secular world. This makes our neshamas happy because our neshama is deep and hidden and wants to connect with the deep and with the hidden. And when it does, so this brings us the greatest internal joy. Let me take a few minutes to speak about my role over the past years as Rebbe and teacher, and then I'll speak a few minutes about my role as Rosh Yeshiva over the last 40 years. I view my role as being a bridge between the great Olam HaTorah of past generations and the present generations of Talmidim. My Rebbeim were mostly European-born, native Yiddish speakers who had themselves studied under the greatest of the great of the Rosh Yeshivas of the previous generations. There are a few who I would like to single out and mention as having made such a strong impression upon me, which I hope has in some way filtered through and been reflected to all of our Talmidim. I was in the Skokie Yeshiva from 1961 to 1969, and those were wonderful years, and I had great Rebbeim. One of the most special Rebbeim was the Novominsker Rebbe Shlita, Rabbi Yaakov Perlo, who I remember in a drasha that he gave. It was actually Purim Suda in the Skokie Yeshiva in the mid-60s, I don't remember exactly which year. But he gave a drasha reflecting and giving over the Torahs of his Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Yisrael Hutner Zecher Tzaddik Livracha, and the title of that drasha was so revealing. What did it reveal? The title of the drasha was The Gilui of the Hester of Megillas Esther. And this opened up my eyes to something that anybody who goes back to Skokie in the 60s knew was kinds of things that nobody had ever heard at that time, the Torahs of Rav Hutner. And it filled me with such a great simcha to understand, to see that there was more to it, that there was things that were deeper and more understandable that could give understanding to us. He set us in a path which has been, to me, a leitmotif of the Gilui of the Hester, trying to always uncover what's been hidden away. He was the one, or Furlow was the one who suggested, when I decided to come to learn in Eretz Yisrael in 1969, that Mir Yeshiva would be the most appropriate choice. And indeed, I thank him for that guidance that he gave me. At the Mir, I encountered two of the Gedolei Ador, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz Zichron L'Rocha, Reb Nachman Pertzovitz Zichron L'Rocha, those pictures you had seen in the video. And Reb Chaim, what I could glean from him was not so much in his learning Gemara and Shishurim. What I gleaned from him was how he would take a simple sounding Pasuk or Maimer Chazal and uncover depths of Torah wisdom that had to do with the human condition with incredible sensitivity. He would uncover things that nobody really knew were there in that Pasuk or that Maimer Chazal. And with Reb Nachman Zecher Tzadik L'Vracha, words can't describe my feelings of how he gave me life, Chaye Olam. He taught that how to uncover the Hester, the Gilui of the Hester of the Daf Gemara. In later years, I was zocheh to hear shiurim from Rav Moshe Shapiro Zecher Tzadik L'Vracha. And believe me, Rabbi Isai, I am Miktanei HaTalmidim of these giants. But their Torah touched my neshama and gave me an incredible simcha and showed me a derech which I hope in some way I've been able to give over to my Talmidim over the course of the years. Sometimes we hear a Dvar Torah and we think back of it, it was predictable. The insight was there, it wasn't such a chiddush. But with them, every time they said something, it was a v'nahafochu. It turned things upside down. It made things clear. It showed the secrets of what was going on. I'd like to make, at this point, honorable mention of one of our earlier Rebbeim and mentors. His name was Reb Zev Chaim Lifshitz, who was a strong force in the early formative years of the yeshiva. He was a most talented educational psychologist, and his insights into learning and into teaching form the basis of much of the educational philosophy which so many of you have gained from over the years. If I've learned a lot from my Rebbeim, more so from my Chaverim. And the fact of the matter is that I've always had great chavrusas. I don't know why I was zocheh to it, but I've always had, from the times that I was a young person, I always had great chavrusas. The one that I want to mention most of all is Reb Shaya. Together we learned for many decades. We were met together, as he said, in 1970 in the Mir Yeshiva, Baba Metzias man, if anybody is interested. And we learned together, and over the course of decades, we're able to formulate concepts and methodologies of learning and of teaching which have become the mainstay of our learning and teaching in the yeshiva. And for that, we'll always be thankful. Umi Talmida Yoser Mikulam, you Talmidim are the ones who have done the chesed, Talmida chesed, of listening, questioning, trying to understand, speaking Divrei Torah and giving me the opportunity to speak Divrei Torah. As Chazal say, Chayim hi l'motza'ehem, Chayim hi l'motzi'ehem bepeh. The opportunity to speak out Divrei Torah. And I know that many of you thank me and the other Rebbeim for the gift of life, and I think that we have given each other the gift of life. What about my role as Rosh Yeshiva? I can't express how great it's and how great the schus is to have been the head of a staff of such wonderful, idealistic people. It's not easy, right, to be the head of a staff of wonderful, idealistic people who are opinionated and have their own, right? And everybody's got their own mahalach. It hasn't been easy. But some of you who are here in the audience are bigger Talmidei Chachamim than I. Some of you are better pedagogues than I, and some of you are more dedicated to Talmidim than I. And I don't know to what I owe the great schus of being the head of this wonderful staff. But I've always felt that my role was to be first among equals, somebody had to sit at the head of the table, and somebody had to make the final decision. And the Hashgacha decided that it would be me. But another question begs to be asked: how do we succeed in melding such a group into a staff that works together in harmony and unison? As I said, people with their own opinions, people who are different than each other. And how is it that we are so able to work together? And I would like to just share with the Yesod of Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, which I'm sure many of you know, Shisha Miskasim B'Talis Echad. When 6 people can cover themselves with 1 talis. And how does it happen? Says Reb Chaim, if I pull the talis for myself and everyone pulls for themselves, nobody is covered. But if everybody is worried about covering the other people, then everybody is covered. In a yeshiva such as ours, if one person tries to pull the blanket of hashpah towards himself, then nobody will have it. But if everybody is interested in giving everybody else the opportunity to share, to be mashpia, to teach the Torah, then we all have the opportunities. When we grab, so then nobody has. And when we give, then everybody has. And I believe that that's the greatest nahafochu of all. But above all, the Talmidim, you are our heroes. Perhaps the reason that I so much enjoy teaching at the yeshiva and all the other roles that I had was the nahafochu of the fact that for so many of you, winding up to be a Talmud at the Shpels or at Medreshet Rachel was the most unreasonable thing that could have happened when you look back. And how did you find yourself in the yeshiva? And how did you find yourself dedicating your years to Talmud Torah and to building families? It's a great nahafochu, which is a testament to the fact that you were able to dig deep into your neshamas and find that path of life, which can only be said that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bringing all of these neshamas back to Him, it's part of a great divine plan of hidden where all of us, Bezrat Hashem, will be brought back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I want to mention one of the things that makes Shpels great. An anecdote. I have a 17-year-old grandson, and his name is Benzi Zaks, the son of my daughter Michal and Rabbi Yossi Zaks, my son-in-law. And 17 years ago when he was born, it was to be hoped for and not be surprised that in 17 years he would be a good Talmud and a good yeshiva. 17 years ago, when Raphael Levinsky was born, the son of Tammy and Baruch, one of our honorary couples, it wasn't so predictable that in 17 years he too would be an outstanding Talmud and a fine yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael and Yerushalayim. And today there are friends and chavrusas in that yeshiva. And this, I think, is one of the remarkable achievements of bringing us all together into the world of Torah. So you are all our honorees. Each of you who is raising a Torah family and the principles we've tried to give over of Torah, Voda, Gvilos, Chasadim, while giving voice to a multiplicity of approaches to Hashkafa of secondary issues. Some of you are Haredi, some are Dati Leumi, some of you are in the world of Kollel, some of you have advanced degrees and are professionals, but all focused around the center point, the Shekhinah, the Mishkan, with the presence of the Shekhinah in the center. I just want to mention another Nahafochu. I remember the first opening day of the yeshiva in 1978 in Shul in Sanhedrin Rochevet, which was the first home of our yeshiva. We opened with 3 Rebbeim, Rabbi Feigenbaum, who's in Toronto, Rav Shai Karlinsky, and myself, and we opened with 2 Talmidim. Rav Shmuel Rosen, Zichrono Levracha, who went on to be an outstanding educator in New York, and Yibodel Chaim Tovim, Rav Shmuel Mayberg, who is a well-known psychologist serving the serving the Haredi communities here in Eretz Yisrael. And I remember that at that opening day ceremony, we invited some of the local Balabatim to join us. And one of them, I remember very distinctly, came over to me and said, looked at the minuscule enrollment and said, Shvacha Maisis. And I remember what I said to him. I said to him, Hazorim bedima berina yiktsoro. 40 years ago I said that, and I thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for answering that tefillah and perhaps throwing some mini nevuah into my mind at the time. On behalf of all of us, I do want to again thank the Chappelle family. Everything that you see here, Ben and your family, is, and the thousands of Talmidim worldwide who are with us tonight in spirit, this all belongs to you. Remember your father, Zichrono Livracha. Father Zichrono Livracha, whose yahrzeit we just commemorated a few weeks ago, who was so dedicated to all matters of Jewish philanthropy, and especially the Chappelle College. And we send our brachas to the matriarch of the family, Mrs. Fela Chappelle, and the extended Chappelle family for good health, prosperity, and continued good judgment about where your philanthropy should go. Before I close, I just want to mention again, it's my honor and privilege to express my hakaras hatov to my friend and chavrusa of 48 years, Reb Shaya. None of what I have described would have been possible without his accepting achrayus for the growth and development of the yeshiva, both in the ruchnius, but especially in the gashmius. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz would say that Kabbalas Achrayus, accepting responsibility, is the hallmark of leadership. Reb Shaya, you have accepted this yoke of the financial responsibility for the yeshiva, and I know how much he has buried his ego and risen to great heights of Mesiras Nefesh for Darchei Noam institutions. And I want to give you a bracha together with your Rebbetzin. Yarech Hashem Mamlachto Mitoch Brius HaNefesh Brius HaGuf, as you continue to lead the yeshiva with vision and vigor until Ad Leosid Lovo. Achrona Chaviva. I have to express my hakaras hatov, but much more than that, to Chavi Meishes Chayil, who stands by my side at all times, to enable me to engage in our avodas hakodesh. Many of you have become close to her, but still she's mostly a behind-the-scenes person. Her wise counsel and her unbending dedication to emes consistently have helped me remain true to our most cherished values. I can tell you that I am who I am because of her. She's raising our children here, who are here today to join us, and our grandchildren with her warmth, compassion, honesty, and sensitivity. Isha Yiras Hashem Hitisalo, thank you very much. May Hashem grant us together good health and continued nachas from all our biological and spiritual children and grandchildren. Finally, I express my hakaras hatov to the Rebbeinu Shalom, who has exquisitely orchestrated my life to enable me to do the most meaningful work on this earth. May He continue to give me the opportunity, lilmod, ulilamed, lishmor, velasos, It's called Divrei Talmud Torasecha Ve'ahava, and with Simcha. Bezrat Hashem. At this time, I would like to introduce my successor, right, as Rosh Yeshiva, my successor as speaker tonight, and Rav David Schoonmaker, as I said, has already shown us that he is the right person to lead us into the future, and hear some words from him of what he hopes and prays for the future of our beloved yeshiva. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't envy myself to have to speak after that. Thank you so much for Hirschfeld, stirring words. Good evening to everybody. I'd like to share the beginning of a letter I recently wrote to a lot of our new alumni. Dear Talmud, I hope this letter finds you happy and healthy in Ruchnius and Gashmius. One of the best things I've done in my life was to become Rosh Yeshiva of Darkei Noam. I'd like to explain part of what was behind that far-reaching statement. In 3 words, it's about past, present, and future. By past, I mean this. Wherever I go, I run into our amazing reputation. Tov Shem Mishem and Tov. A good name is better than good oil. It's more far-reaching. It spreads further. We can look with confidence into the future because of the sterling name we have as an institution. The yeshiva is known as a world leader in teaching basic skills and building Talmidim and Talmidot solidly and in a healthy way from the ground up. Those Talmidim, while spending time in the Yeshiva Midrashah, are deeply respected as individuals and deeply believed in as integral members of Klal Yisrael's future. Our present state. Some institutions are has-beens. They grow fat and old living off of their reputation. Our yeshiva is alive and kicking. The very last thing we are doing is resting on our laurels. Everyone is busy. Everyone is working hard. New Talmidim are checking out the yeshiva all the time. But more than that, this is an institution of academic excellence. Our Rebbeim aren't just Talmidei Chachamim, scholars. They're outstanding educators and methodologists. We're still thinking of how to teach things in a very possible way. Not just what to teach, but how to teach it. Is this the purpose of B'kiyas, or is that? How much time should be spent on Chumash? How much time in Halacha? What's the tachlis of the Tiulim? What institutions think about that? Our other great resource is our student body. Guests revisit the yeshiva and see how has even the specific Talmidim changed. The vibe, the motivation, the seriousness, the family feeling, the tmimus, the purity stays. That's the same motivation and seriousness and tmimus which so many of you brought to your time in the yeshiva and Bet Yishab. It's truly amazing that as much as things change, they so happily stay the same. Did they give hugs back then when they used to sing Kimitzion? Every day being in, teaching in, and directing such a yeshiva is a true pleasure. And so much of that past and present is the direct effects of Moreno, or Rosh Yeshiva, or Hirschfeld Shlita. So that's a little of our past and our present. What about the future? It's so clear to me that so many people out there in the Jewish world need Darkei Noam. We're constantly thinking about where we can expand. Should we open a mechina for serious Anglo-Olim who need to work on their Gemara skills, who are not yet ready for the Army or Hesder? Is the right idea a third-year program for our Talmidim who've been in the myriad gap year yeshivot? We put serious efforts in trying to create an alliance with YU that so many of their Talmidim would benefit so much by even a short 3-month stint in our yeshiva. Or maybe the best idea is giving another chance to so many yeshivish students who have been slipping by without getting a real handle on their skills. We, of course, love and embrace our core-type students, but together with that, look forward to being a major resource for Klal Yisrael, for the Jewish people, and leading in Jewish education in the future. So this is the tremendous institution with an honorable past, a wonderful present, and a bright future. We look to you, alumni. You understand, like no one else, what this school is made up of, to continue partnering with us. And with no further ado, let's see the movie together. Thank you very much.
For other people, it was a struggle. There were all kinds of things. For him, it all just came naturally, and as a result, it came naturally. Those of us who learned at the men's school had the privilege of seeing glimpses into his worldview and his personality. But over the last 2+ decades, it's been at Midrash Rachel B'Chaya with his Talmidot and his continuing Talmidot. For him, there are no alumni. Everybody who was a Talmidah remains a Talmidah, and it's a pleasure to introduce Rav Shuran to speak with us this evening.
Okay, so I'm getting a little bit late. I feel that Rabbi Hirschfeld really described the experience of both our teachers at Shechel's and Rachel and Hala. I just want to say that, myself and Esther, we're your biggest fans. Everybody always says, Rabbi Shuran, you have a lot of fans. No. Esther and I are your biggest fans. You're all, like Rabbi Hirschfeld said, our heroes. And we feel that more than, within Klal Yisrael, right, you guys are making tremendous strides for the Jewish people. And I guess we have to say it in one, like everybody in small steps, one step at a time. And our alumni, and especially our guests of honor tonight, which again, I feel everybody here is a guest of honor, and the 3 guests of honors are just representing everybody else at Chappelle's and Midrash Rachel. And I guess I'll call you up one at a time, but I do want to say that I felt like a tingle when I realized that, there's one alum from, alumni from South Africa, one from Canada, one from the United States, and a certain feeling that sort of Chappelle's is reaching with that long arm all over the world. They say in the name of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter that he wanted to change the world. With his Musar movement, he wanted to change the world, but he said he wasn't able to do that, so he decided to change Lithuania. And after a while, he saw he can't do that either, so he decided to change Kovna, the capital of Lithuania. And that he also found challenging. And decided if I change myself, then I will be able to change Kovna, Lithuania, and the rest of the world. And certainly Rabbi Salanter was correct about that. And I think that our alumni, whether it's Peter and Shelley, Peretz and Shelley, right? I'm still the old-fashioned one. And I guess I have to say Baruch, Brent, and Tammy, and Ellen, and Amos. Each one of you are making your contribution to Klal Yisrael. And that's a tremendous Kiddush Hashem, and it makes us really so proud that you guys are doing that. And I want to just mention something that maybe was not mentioned tonight, because everything else was, is that you're doing it all in Eretz Yisrael. And that's tremendous. I have many people I'm fans of in Chutz La'aretz who, I have in my phone close to 4,000 phone numbers. Okay? But the people in Eretz Yisrael who are, taking the initiative, whether it is, Amos, and Ellen, working for the Joint, and Maor, which is, these are two great organizations which are really changing the face of Klal Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, or, Brent and Tammy, when, Brent's Baruch is very involved in, whether it's Nefesh B'Nefesh, or the teens at risk in Ramat Beit Shemesh, or helping people on their aliyah, right? And of course, Peter and Shelley. And Shelley, every now and then I see her at Madrash Rachel. She always says to me, I'm sure I'm going to be coming back. So every time I see her at Madrash Rachel, and she comes back eventually, their home is always open. They always want to be part of the yeshiva. Whenever I have students, I could send the whole school there, and they're going to invite them, basically. And of course, I know that Peter's heavily involved in Abba Shalom Shul. I think that's the shul that my son-in-law was the Balkori in, right? So I know the shul fairly well. The rabbi, Adam Choshev, and everyone is is changing the world slowly but surely. And that's what you guys have to know. You don't have to make the big splash. You have to make sure that we're working towards a better Klal Yisrael, and each one of you are definitely doing that. So, without any further ado, I call you up one at a time. So I will call up Baruch and Tammy Lubinsky. Please come in. I just want to say that, now looking at the picture, it brings back many, many years when Rabbi Karlinsky was, I don't know, every time I mention the word to the photographer, he always says to me, oh, I still have that dark room. You still have the dark room? Equipment, right? I don't know if he misses it or not, but I miss Rabbi Karlinsky being involved in that. But I guess, went on to, we say, bigger and better things. The next person I'd like to call up, the next couple I'd like to call up is Peretz and Shelley Katz. And Amos and Ellen Levy.
A couple of weeks ago, in a conversation with one of my students, I found myself for the umpteenth time quoting what I had thought was Rav Hirschfeld's most unbelievable Musar Shmooze that I still remember and cite and quote from 3 decades later. But I have to say that what we heard tonight was an even greater Musar Shmooze. I mean, just think about it. 300 people gathered here in order to make this an event, in large part in dedication to and in fondness for and out of a sense of gratitude to one man, and he simply refused. It was never, ever about him. Right? It was about Rav Hirschfeld's Rebbeim. It was about the people he studied with, his Chaverim, the Talmidim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But there was no Rav Hirschfeld. All of us came for one goal, and we just couldn't succeed because he couldn't take that kavod. He wanted all the kavod to go to others. And I think that selflessness really speaks volumes about Darchei Noam Chappelle's Midrash Rachel B'Chaya. It's a place that knows how to give and give and give and give, and a place that doesn't know how to ask or take because it's always in that kind of giving mode. That's the background for the Top 4 for 4 years campaign that most of you have heard about and a great many of you have taken part in. And I want to say a word about that because I think it really speaks to why we're here and who we are. The yeshiva has been extraordinarily blessed with the very, very long-term gratitude of the Chappelle family. There are few institutions of Torah or of any kind anywhere in the world that have had that kind of a long-term blessing. And the yeshiva has been blessed with a stream of Talmidim who really moser nefesh l'Torah, who really give their all for it, and among other things, scrape together all the money they possibly can to contribute to a part of their education, to funding it. And yet we all understand that between those two unbelievable sources, that covers something just over 40% of what the yeshiva needs. And Rav Hirschfeld spoke earlier of the Kichat Achrayut, taking on of responsibility as the hallmark of leadership. And all of us in this room, especially the alumni, but all who see themselves as a part of the Darchei Noam family, are asked to take on a certain responsibility. And Top 4 for 4 is a very simple expression. It says the following: each of us has places that we care about. There's one of the schools that one of our kids go to, there's maybe the local shul, there's some tzedakah that inspired by our time in yeshiva or midrashah. We were involved in starting, we feel like it's our job to continue it. That takes 3 spaces. There's a 4th space. And I think for just about all of us who had the unbelievable benefit of learning in these fine Mosdot Torah, that 4th space, one of those top 4, could be the very top out of those top 4, really goes to Darchei Noam. When I look back at the last 3 decades, I have absolutely no doubt that of all the stops I've made, then and before then, the place to which I owe the greatest debt of Hakarat HaTov is to Darchei Noam Chappelle's. It's easy to express it in a speech, it's easy to express it every now and then in a statement that we make, but saying top 4 means this doesn't just matter to me rhetorically. This isn't just something that I talk about. This is something that I take a good chunk of my maaser, whether our maaser is at 10% or at 20% or somewhere within that range, wherever it is, I'm going to make sure that this place that meant so much to me, that gave so much to me, that is so much of who I am and my children and my grandchildren, that it's going to continue to do that. I think Rav Hirschfeld spoke too modestly when he said for the next 40 years, let's keep going after those next 40 years. Right? If Bnei Yisrael had stopped after their next 40 years, where would we all be? You have to keep going past that and past that and past that. So top 4 is really where it should be, not only in our hearts, but in what we actually do in making those hard decisions of allocation. Why top 4 for 4 years? Our Rebbeim are some of the most unbelievable people. Our Rebbeim and our teachers, they're incredibly selfless. They deserve to be able to plan, to be able to know, in keeping the wonderful plans that Rabbi Schoonmaker spoke about, what do we have for the next few years so that we can start this program and know that it's really going to have legs, so that this isn't just a brief experiment. And those of us who care about the place, and we could feel that caring throughout the evening, understand that it's our role, together with all the others in this room and in this virtual room and at the next dinner and throughout the world, to make sure that a great place of Torah continues to be a great place of Torah, that we recognize the good that was done for us and serve as partners with the Rebbeim, with the Talmidim, with the Chappelle family in continuing it. So there should be somewhere, perhaps even at a chair near you, cards that you can sign. Very simple. I see them being waved back there. Let's see if we can get them around to people in whatever way is most appropriate. Now you have to do something very simple and commit to do something a bit more strenuous. We're asking anybody who's in a position to do so, just put your name down in the signature. Husbands and wives should feel free to consult as soon as we finish, and just say, this is in my heart and it's top 4 for the next 4 years. For a yeshiva that doesn't like to ask for anything, I probably already tested the limits of the Rosh Yeshiva. They probably think I should start talking about all the other things the yeshiva can give. God forbid the yeshiva should ever receive what it needs to continue. But I think all of us who understand and appreciate that modesty understand the Hakarat HaTov that we need to show. We're just about done for the evening. We have some Ruchniut and Gashmiut. The Ruchniut is going to be Mariv, which is going to be taking place in whatever direction somebody in authority is going to point to. That would be... Yeah, okay, so Mariv is going to be here. I don't mean to compete with Mariv, but dessert, which is going to be almost as good as Mariv, is going to be in the adjoining room. Everybody is welcome to take the alumni directory, which will help us all to stay in touch. You should also know that that amazing picture down there, there's going to be a replica of it in the Pinat Noam at the yeshiva, which is in honor of Rabbi Hirschfeld. And I just want to close by thanking everybody, especially our honorees, and especially our retiring, but not retiring, because he's still with us, Adnei V'Esrim Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Hirschfeld. And thank you again all for being here.